Hello everyone, welcome back for another video. Grab yourself some tea. I haven't had a big mug of tea in quite a while and I have no idea why. I've just been drinking hot chocolate, so that probably explains it. I have to start with this. So I get Reddit notifications on my phone, and I got one last night right before bed too, on r/ghosts. Oh my goodness, you guys, this has 52,000 upvotes. This might be the creepiest thing that I have ever seen. So the person wrote, I captured an apparition. I woke up to my son babbling and I saw this on the camera. I took a picture and I went in the room expecting somebody to be there. When I got there, it was gone. The only time I've ever actually been scared in my home. And look at this picture, you guys. This might be the creepiest thing that I have ever seen. Like, I don't even know what to say. That looks like a human. Some sort of very creepy human. Like, look, you can clearly see the head, the nose, the eyes. It looks like it is, like putting its forehead up to the little baby, like in almost like a loving way, I hope. Something super creepy is going on there. I do not like it at all. And I think the creepiest thing about that is that it almost looks like it doesn't have any arms. Do you see what I'm looking at? Like, what the hell is going on there? And when I saw that last night, I was like, okay, I think this is a sign that I need to get back into the videos. So this happened to me when I was 9. My friend in the neighborhood found a Ouija board in his brother's stuff while he was away at college. He told me what it was, and he asked me if I wanted to play it with him. Trying to impress him, I said yes. And we went into his room and we tried it out. Nothing happened and we were left disappointed. Later that week, he called me and he told me that he looked up how to use the board properly and he wanted to give it another go. I agreed, as I was more confident that nothing was going to happen. We grabbed a bunch of scented candles and we placed them around the board and we did the whole seance thing. We asked the board if anyone was there and it of course went to yes. We thought the other was messing around, but we agreed to take it seriously because I didn't really care if it was a stupid joke. We asked the ghost what its name was and it spelled out Owen. My friend asked if it was a person and it went to no. We asked what it was and it spelled out demon. I then asked, prove it. You know that call in the intro to Finding Bigfoot? Well, that is the closest thing to what we heard from the garage. Keep in mind, it was only us in the house. It scared the shit out of us and we ran out of the house. We checked the garage, but there was nothing. A few weeks go by and he tells me that he is now having paranormal experiences. He feels like he's being watched whenever he's downstairs in the kitchen or in the living room. He feels that someone is sitting on the end of his bed every single night. Every time he walks past the garage, he feels somebody grab his wrist and pull him towards the garage. Whenever I went over, I always got the feeling that somebody was looking at me from the ceiling. And it was definitely unnatural. I don't like that. Then came the scariest part of all. We were at his house playing Army in his room while no one else was home when we began to hear heavy footsteps downstairs. Except whatever was moving, oh God, whatever was moving, it had hoofs. It sounded like a full-grown horse was walking around downstairs. Then we heard somebody begin to laugh and cough at the same time. My friend ran over and he slammed the door shut and we hid there. He hid under his bed while I hid in his closet. Then it sounded like somebody began scratching his door with one big claw, like the ones that raptors had on their big toe. He started crying and I was on the verge of tears. My friend yelled, quote, "Leave us alone, Owen. You're scaring us," unquote. And it began to stop and then we heard it run down the stairs. My friend got up and he threw me out of the closet and he grabbed the Ouija board that was in there with me. He ran down the stairs, he ripped the screen door off of his gas fireplace and he threw the thing in there. He put the screen back on and then he went to turn the fire on. When he was about to turn it on, we heard a loud moan coming from the basement, which was right behind my friend. He flicked the fireplace on and the board began to burn, and that was the end of that. We played outside since he was too scared to go back into the house, all the way until his parents got home. His parents came home and they saw that he had burned his brother's Ouija board. They grounded him and they threw the burnt board away. That was the end of the paranormal experiences in my friend's house, but that is why I will never take part in one of those games again. Ooh, that's creepy. I'll never play with a Ouija board. I played with one time at my birthday party when I was a kid, and I know, I don't know for sure if anything can actually happen from that stuff, but I'm superstitious and I won't play with one, just in case. My mug warmer is keeping my tea nice and hot. I love it. So here's a few of my Ouija board stories because I never learned my lesson the first time. My mom is an avid auction goer. She went to her local auction one day, looked around, obviously not too well, found a box with stuff that she liked in it, and she won that auction. She brings the box home and starts going through it, and there is a Ouija board sitting in there. I came home for Thanksgiving last year, and I decided that I wanted to play with it. Because somehow, when I was 13, I found one in my room. I tried playing with it by myself, and nothing happened. So this time, I wanted to try it with her to see if something would actually happen. So I insist that we light tea candles around us in a circle. Then we put the dog in the kitchen, and we boarded it up with the baby cage. The dog did not like the Ouija board before we even started. So we're all set. The dog is taken care of and we turn out all of the lights. We start asking questions and we learn that we are talking to a boy. I think he said that he was 7 and his name was Tom. Well, I had just read not to let the spirits go consecutively through numbers or letters, and he started haphazardly going through numbers. So I freaked out and we said goodbye. I wonder what that's about. I have no idea. After saying goodbye, I kept saying to my mom, something is wrong. Something does not feel right. I don't feel right, etc. I was full on panicking and I was sobbing for no reason. I was just suddenly overcome with the most intense fear and panic that I had ever had. Then, as quickly as it came on, all of those feelings left. After the panic subsided, I insisted that we do it again, and she tried to tell me no, but conceded anyway. So this time, we ask if Tom is with us, and the board points to no. I ask who it is, and it doesn't move away from no. I try various forms of this question, like, what is your name? How old are you? Are you a good spirit? Etc. It wouldn't move from no. I should also mention that you should never let the spirits move the piece in a figure 8 or an infinity sign. And it started going in a figure 8. I'm sitting there, zonked out of my mind, apparently staring at the board, but I could not see anything. What? My mom is yelling at me, saying that we need to say goodbye, and I'm not paying her any mind. I'm just letting the spirit do its thing. Huh? She screamed at me again and shoved the piece to goodbye, and she said, quote, borderline say goodbye, unquote. So I responded with a very quiet, very gentle, and very soft, nonchalant goodbye. My mom asked me why I wouldn't do anything, and I told her that I didn't even know what was happening. She told me that I was staring at the board and there was no way that I wouldn't have seen it, but I didn't see it. It's also worth mentioning that the spirits wouldn't answer her, even Tom. She asked if anyone was with us, and we got no response. I asked, and it shot to yes. So yeah, dumb me decided to play with a Ouija board again after the first time that had resulted in a complete disassociated panic. I should have taken the panic as a warning sign. After all that, my mom's spirits got worse. There was a bloody footprint in her downstairs bathroom, and it didn't match anyone's foot size. Oh, and it was also coming out from between the washer and dryer. I don't like that. Nope. Occasionally, the spirit comes in and out. I felt like I have had my face spit on when I was laying in bed and facing the wall. One time my boyfriend was booped on the head, or bopped on the head. There's an entity that masks its voice to sound like somebody in the house calling for someone else. There is a dark one that plays peekaboo with my mom. I can't. Oh, there's a dark spirit that plays peekaboo with my mom while she's in her bed. And then she sits up in the middle of the night asleep, looking up and talking to something. My stepdad has actually witnessed that. I'm out. I was a 7-year-old kid in rural Utah. I was staying the night at my grandparents' house on Main Street. I didn't want to sleep, so around midnight, I went down into the basement. I took my Matchbox cars and I played a game called Night City with my glowing butter blocks. I had this little metropolis going on when my uncle came downstairs to play with me. I need to mention that my great uncle died when I was 2. Anyway, my great uncle and I played Night City for a good hour, and I remember this like it was yesterday. He drove the Lincoln because that was his favorite car. Anyway, it got late. He had to leave so he wouldn't miss his train. He left, and then I went up to go to sleep. The next morning, I asked when my uncle was coming back to play, and my grandparents were slightly offended that I had brought this up. They hadn't seen him since before I was born, and they wanted nothing to do with him. He was the black sheep of the family. I said that him and I had played cars and I even showed them the car that he had drove in our city game. And they were really uncomfortable with this, and they chalked it all up to my imagination. I never met my uncle. Again, he died when I was 2. Over the years since then, I have learned that he drove both a train for Union Pacific, and he also drove a Lincoln MKV-2. Like I said, I don't believe in ghosts, but I don't know how 7-year-old me knew things about an estranged relative who died when I was 2 and was never spoken of due to certain family issues. This one, that one hits really close to home. Like, I'll have to ask Eric or his mom the specifics, but they told me this years ago, and apparently Eric did not the same thing, but along the same lines when he was a baby. Like, he was younger than 7. I think he might have been 2 or 3 or something. And apparently he started talking about or describing, I think it was an uncle who was no longer living, and there was no way for him to know anything about this person. And I think, from what I know, the family thinks he was seeing a ghost. And I think there's a lot of stories like that one. I wonder who that baby on Reddit was seeing. Although, I don't know, that thing literally haunted my dreams last night. Because, like, while it does look like a very elderly person, it also kind of looks like a creepy, like, demonic hobgoblin or something. So this is my dad's story, not mine. It was the early 1980s, and he is working a summer job at Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming. One day, he and his friend Mark hiked up to the top of one of the mountains, and they set up their tent inside what is known as an Indian pit. which is a man-made hole which had been dug out by Native Americans hundreds of years ago. The pits were either used as hunting blinds or spots where young braves came to for their vision quests. Late in the night, my dad wakes up and he has to use the bathroom. He crawled out of his tent, out of the pit, and he went walking a respectable distance from the tent. Suddenly, he felt a hand on his shoulder pull him backwards. My dad calls out, quote, "Hey Mark, what are you doing?" unquote. He turns around. He turns on his flashlight and there is nobody there. He shines the light at his feet and he discovers that his next couple of steps would have taken him directly over a steep cliff. He did his business and then he hurried back to the tent. The next morning, the two friends are waking up and his buddy says to him, quote, "I know that this sounds crazy, but I woke up in the middle of the night and I swear to you, there was a Native American man standing outside of our tent," unquote. Whatever really happened that night, my dad is alive. He met my mom in Yellowstone, and here I am writing the story to you today. Ooh, I believe it. So I used to work at a museum that was once a functional prison. Throughout my 8 years of working there, I have been pushed, slapped, bit, dragged, and punched by unseen entities. I always had problems when I would go to lock up certain buildings at night because you never knew what you would see coming around a corner. I went into the cell house once to turn off the lights. I rounded the doorway to see a full-bodied apparition just standing there in an inmate's uniform. Oh, a split second later, he vanished into thin air. There was a pretty notorious inmate who was involved in one of the riots, and his spirit would follow me around the grounds. One night, I was with a paranormal group, and we went into an area that we don't let the public visit because it's in complete disrepair. And we were screamed at to leave, and something snarled at me. It was not uncommon for me or one of my coworkers to have shadow people follow us around, and we would even have some poor visitors chased out of certain buildings like maximum security by entities like this. There's something, I bet, just like universally creepy, but I don't know what I'm saying. I bet most prisons have a little something going on there. Died. Yeah, I have like a pretty famous prison, which was a prison at one point anyway, near where we live. I don't think I could personally actually go there on like a tour or even an actual ghost tour, because I'm of the belief that just what if this stuff is real and something followed me home? I would not be okay. I wouldn't be okay. Like, it's obviously such a gimmick when, I'm not going to name the channel that does this, but there's a very particular, very popular ghost hunting YouTube channel, and maybe several of them do this, I don't know, but at least one of them will actually give like a warning before the video starts, saying, "Warning, even just by watching this video, it could make demons and spirits be attracted to you and come through the screen." It's like, really, dude, it's such bullshit. Like, come on. Like, that's clearly just a view grab or an engagement grab. I don't know. That's really... But actually going to like a prison or like an old hospital, especially like a tuberculosis hospital or something like that, where really awful things have happened in the past, I believe something could start haunting you. Maybe. I don't know. That's why I probably never will go on like an actual ghost tour. Unless it was the Queen Mary. If I'm in the US for some reason and I have the opportunity to go stay on the Queen Mary, I probably will. But I'll probably check out halfway through the night. So I stayed at my grandmother's house that my father spent a large amount of time in as a kid. My father drove us there in one go and was understandably tired after a 17-hour drive. We all started to lay down, and my father checked in on us before going to bed himself. As he was talking, he stopped himself and he told us to cover a large mirror, saying, quote, "You have to cover the mirror or you will have nightmares," unquote. Now, nightmares from a mirror, of all things, sounded like fun to me. But my brothers, who were also sleeping in the same room, it scared them and they asked me to cover it. So I did. I asked my dad about it before he left, and he said that ghosts use mirrors, specifically that mirror, as an entryway. A week later, I brought it up with my grandmother, and she scoffed, saying, quote, "Oh, this house isn't haunted," unquote. I agreed, but I told her that the reason I brought it up was because my dad told me to cover a mirror. My grandmother then changed her expression, and she said, quote, "Oh, the mirror," unquote. Apparently, that mirror came from her grandmother, and she had worked as a nurse, and she took in those who were going to die but could not pay for care on their last days. So she made her home into a hospice. And those who stayed in the room with the mirror apparently saw things. A lovely old lady saw and heard a young lady come into her room, and she started playing a harp. She was thankful for the lovely songs, but no person was known, nor was a harp owned or heard anywhere else. A young boy found an older boy who played games with him and, quote, "really knew his games," unquote. Lastly, a terrible woman, one who refused to use the bathroom and would go in a cooking pot and then hide it under her bed, saw, and these are her words, quote, "saw the devil that spat fire at her," unquote. The police were called and she tried to accuse the nurse of trying to kill her with the devil. I also got stories from my mother seeing the same young lady who had played the harp, but without the harp that time. And my grandfather also saw the devil guy. My grandfather described it as a red man with horns that was too tall for the room that he was in. So he, still standing up straight, would bend his neck down to fit in the room. It stared down at him and it simply asked, slowly, "Why are you here?" I kept that mirror covered while I was there. Yeah, mirrors are freaky. If you have been following my channel for a long time, you might remember the experience that I had in high school when I had a couple of my girlfriends spend the night, and it's a very weird story where I got completely gaslit, but for like a too long didn't read. Basically, 3 of my friends believed that they were like in contact with a demon. They spent the night during Christmas time. It was near my birthday, and they gave me this present, which was this really beautiful bracelet, and I loved it. And then they told me, "You have to put it on, you have to wear it." And they basically said it's because of this demon that follows us around, and its name is Shivers. That's creepy enough. And it was kind of like, you're a part of this now, he's like attached to you now, sort of thing, because you're like in the group. I don't know. I thought they were joking. I thought this was like either like a mean initiation or hazing or some sort of weird thing was going on. So I got mad and I went upstairs to go to sleep while they stayed in the basement. This is longer than a too long didn't read, sorry. Middle of the night, I'm asleep and I hear them coming up the stairs. And I was kind of pissed because I knew that they were going to wake my dad up, who needed to get up at like 4 a.m. for work. So I come out of my room and I just remember one of them was like kind of in a weird daze, almost like she was hypnotized or something. And she was asking me why we had so many mirrors in the house. And I didn't have an answer, so I was like, I don't know, my mom just likes them. My mom liked to have a lot of mirrors down the hallway because it looked good. And she didn't like that because that's how demons travel. I don't know if it was like the next week or something. This was a long time ago in high school. I asked them about it It's like, when are we gonna finish that conversation about what happened at my house? And they're like, what are you talking about? Literally denying everything that happened. Oh, making me feel like the biggest idiot. I couldn't believe it. What are you talking about? That's crazy, huh? And I got confirmation from one of their boyfriends at the time, and I don't remember if we were like in a fight or something, and he asked me what was going on, and I was like, have you ever heard of this? And I know this sounds crazy, but have you ever heard them talking about a demon thing that they named Shivers? Instantly he was like, yeah, I know all about that. So that's why stories that talk about mirrors and stuff, it hits a nerve in me, both an angry nerve and a scared nerve. I don't know what I'm saying. It hits close to home. If you're wondering if I'm still in contact with them, no. Lost contact many years ago. This is my mom's story, but she is completely sane and I believed it. My parents went to South Carolina for a wedding once, and they stayed at some old plantation bed and breakfast. She was sleeping when she woke up all of a sudden. She had her cell phone plugged into the wall and it was sitting on her nightstand. There was a notification on the phone, so it was blinking, and she sees a female ghost, whatever it was, dressed in a full-on old formal dress. And this ghost was completely fixated on the cell phone, watching the blinking light, and she was walking towards it. My mom said, quote, "It's okay, it's just a phone," unquote. The ghost then turned, she made eye contact with my mom, and then she disappeared. I don't know why that story gave me the first shivers of the night. So I used to sell HVAC in Michigan while I was in college. There was this really awesome old guy that called for a new high-efficiency furnace in his historic home in Depot Town, which is near Ann Arbor. As I'm putting together his quote, we get to talking about the home and its history. He tells me that it was actually part of the Underground Railroad and had a tunnel that led down to the train station, which was only about 500 yards away. I'll be honest, I was more focused on the sale than all of the details that he was laying out about the house. But one thing that made my ears perk up was when he talked about the people that lived with him. He told me about a few, but the one that stuck out was he said that there was a lady that was so fascinated with electricity that she would turn random lights on at random times. As I'm printing out his quote and I'm going over the details and the payment options with him, of course, the light behind me turns on. Then the light across the room turns on, followed by the one in the kitchen, then the one in the hallway. I just kind of got quiet and I sunk a little in my seat. Then the old dude raised his voice and he said something like, okay, that's enough for today, sweetheart. We can do it again tomorrow." Still to this day, I don't know if the old dude was just having some fun with me or if it was an actual haunting. Side note, I closed the sale and the install team said that there wasn't anything too wonky or out of the norm with his electricity. Alright, I was 9 to 11, somewhere around there, years old. My family lived in a 3-bedroom duplex. I had my own room across from my mother's room, which was down a short hallway. My older brother's room was on the opposite side of the house, and for the full 3 to 4 years that we lived there, I could not sleep facing my wall. Anytime I fell asleep or attempted to while facing that wall, I would feel somebody smack me in the back of the head with their hand. What? At first, I thought that this was my older brother just being an ass, until it happened while my very loud and my very squeaky door was shut. It also happened for the 6+ months that he was in juvie. My mother does not move quickly or quietly, and it even happened while I had a friend stay the night, but it only happened to me, and only when I tried to sleep facing that wall. So one night, my door was left open when I went to bed. I was fast asleep on my back when I suddenly woke up in the middle of the night and I had the feeling that somebody was standing above me. I looked up to see a long, soft blue light, which was suspended about 6 to 12 inches above the floor in the center of the straight hallway between my mom's room and mine. I was upside down, so after about a minute of staring at the soft blue light, I finally turned over. And after a few seconds, I noticed that there's this slim, middle-aged man floating there, covered in this blue light. He is making eye contact with me, and his face is expressionless. He's just staring down at me. I had never seen him before, but it didn't scare me for some reason. About 10 uninterrupted minutes of just staring at one another. Somehow while looking at him, I managed to fall back asleep. It only happened once. I never saw that man again. However, until the day that I moved out, I could not sleep facing the wall, or I would be woken with a quick smack to the back of the head in the middle of the night. No one has ever believed me, of course. I don't like that. I want to say, I don't remember the term, but it's that jolting feeling that you get sometimes when you wake up and you feel like you're falling. The logical side of me wants to say that maybe something like that. But if it only happened when she faced that one side of the wall, I don't know, that's creepy. That would just anchor me. Because I'm very specific about which side I want to sleep on and where I want to face when I'm sleeping. If some ghost was just messing with me, slapping me awake every time I was just about to fall asleep in the perfect position, I'd be so pissed. I would not like that. Alright, that's going to be all for today. Again, I'm not going to say sorry for not whispering. If you guys have your own freaky stories, freaky true ghost stories, you can find my email down below and I'll be happy to give them a look over to see if I can read them in my video. And I think I'm gonna do, I don't know, maybe a video on a specific type of ghost or something next, or maybe a haunted prison or something. I'm in the mood to do some research. So if you're interested, maybe subscribe, stick around for the next one, and I'll see you soon. Bye.